just need you to know that I am terrified. I'm trying so hard not to say this was just boring. Let's talk about it. The Marxism of it all. Is it really nihilism or is it just depression? Hello. So, let's start right away. What do hot girls read? This is a video that I wanted to do actually for quite some time. You know, those TikToks about like hot sad girl books, and like that's kind of my brand, you know, my channel is like named after Sylvia Plath's novel, The Bell Jar, so I need to do it. So as I found out, hot girls read literary fiction, hot girls read smart books, and I also want to be a hot intellectual, so here are the books that if someone will see me reading on the subway, they're going to think she's hot. So in this video I'm going to read my first ever Joan Didion. I know she wrote some non-fiction, but I've decided to go for a novel. This is Played As It Lays. I will talk about the synopsis for those books later in the video. Next we have Conversations with Friends by Sally Rooney. I read that book on audiobook. So if you don't know my history with Sally Rooney, basically a few years ago I read Normal People and hated it, and I thought, okay, I don't think I'm going to read any more of Sally Rooney. But after that I've seen quite a lot of people, you know, claiming that if you didn't like Normal People, you're probably going to like Conversations with Friends, and if you didn't like Conversations with Friends, you're probably going to like Normal People. So I've decided to test that theory in this video. We're going to figure out if there's any truth to it, and if not, if I hate Conversations with Friends, at least I can finally say that I'm a certified Sally Rooney hater, and that's something too. And lastly, in this video I'm going to be reading The Woman Destroyed by Simone de Beauvoir. This is a collection of short stories by this French, I don't want to say philosopher, but she was kind of a philosopher. So yeah, basically hot girls read smart books. There's that. Those are the 3 books that I'm going to be reading in this vlog. I'm filming this after I've finished this whole video, so I'm just going to tell you that it didn't go how I thought it would. First of all, I'm just going to admit that I went on a like whole tangent when it comes to Sally Rooney. Like there's this like deep dive into the Sally Rooney canon. Yeah, I went a bit extra. But yeah, nevertheless, I hope you will enjoy, and let's go. Okay, hello. I'm pretty sure I already like recorded an intro after I finished this challenge, this vlog. So Anya from the future already knows how this challenge went, but we need to rewind for a second, and I just want to briefly talk about my like mental state or like my feelings regarding this challenge at this point in time. I haven't really started any of the books yet, but I just need you to know that I am terrified. Like, I just have a bad feeling about this vlog. I don't know why. Maybe this is like the Sally Rooney ghost looming over me. I mean, she's not dead, but I just, you know, I know that I really didn't like Normal People, so I'm just like, why am I doing this to myself? Like, my brain is like, Anya, you're not going to like this, and the Sally Rooney girlies are going to hunt you down. So maybe it's that. Maybe it's the fact that I'm strictly reading literary fiction and like the classics in the literary fiction genre, like the modern classics, you know, Joan Didion, Simone de Beauvoir. And I don't know, maybe my brain is like, what if it's like too highbrow for me? What if I don't understand it? So those are my worries, but today I'm going to start Played As It Lays by Joan Didion. I actually kind of started it a few days ago, but I only read a few sentences. I went to this cafe with my friend and thought I would get like some aesthetic shots of me reading, but first of all it was very loud in there, and I started reading this, but I only read like 3 sentences maybe, and I don't know what it was. Maybe I couldn't focus fully in this cafe, but I could vaguely tell that what I was reading was English, but like the sentences didn't make any sense in my head. So maybe this is too highbrow for me. Okay, let me read you the first like 3 sentences or so. What makes Iago evil? Some people ask. I never ask. Another example, one which springs to mind because Mrs. Bernstein saw a pygmy rattler in the artichoke garden this morning and has been intractable since. I never ask about snakes. Why should Shalimar attract Christ's like, there's so many words I don't understand. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to start reading this book with like a dictionary open in my browser, and we'll see how it goes. Okay, hello, excuse the hat. I dyed my hair yesterday. It's just like a bit of a darker brown. But in the like instruction manual, it said to put, after washing your hair out of the hair dye, to put the conditioner in the box all over your hair, and I literally read it twice because I was like, surely that's wrong, because then it's going to leave like my roots, like the top of my head, greasy. But it literally said that, so I did, and obviously now the top of my head looks like I haven't washed my hair in a week. But it's fine. And I cannot wash it in the first like 24 hours because then the dye will like wash out, so it's fine. I'm rocking this hat. So I just wanted to update you because I am pretty much halfway through Played as It Lays, and I have to say I'm really enjoying it, which is surprising. The confusion only lasted like 2 pages because after this very confusing introduction we get to know the main character, Maria, and the story isn't as confusing as I thought it would be. And I don't have to Google every other word. Like, I think I only had to Google something once after the first chapter, so yeah, it's fine, it really is. So what this book is about 30-something-year-old woman, Maria, who is an actress. She was married to Carter, who was a producer or director, I'm not quite sure. But they got divorced and she cannot really see her daughter now. And we also, at the very beginning, find out that her mother died a very gruesome death. And basically the main character is just going through it. So it's about her like mental spiral, downfall. I mean, I don't know where it's going just yet, but yeah. This does remind me of The Bell Jar, if The Bell Jar was set in Hollywood and the main character was an actress. The writing style is also a bit similar. It's quite sparse, although I would say Joan Didion's writing style is a bit more sparse. But Joan Didion's writing style is a bit more vague. I'm not sure how else to describe it. Yeah, I just feel like Sylvia Plath's writing style is a bit more precise. And I do like Sylvia Plath's writing style a bit more, but I'm still enjoying this. The only confusing part, I would have to say, is the kind of non-linear storytelling or like timeline. Yeah, sometimes I catch myself thinking like, is this a flashback or are we back to the present? Yeah, aside from that, it's not as kind of highbrow and hard to understand as I thought it would be. So I'll update you next when I finish it. Well, that was bleak. I'm not sure if I have much more to say when it comes to this book. I mean, it definitely explores the meaninglessness of human existence, which is super fun. I I don't know. Whenever I saw someone saying that this book is about nihilism, I'm just like, is it really nihilism or is it just depression? I mean, both things could be true. But yeah, it's hard to say that I enjoyed it, but it is a really good book, and I'm going to give it 4.5 stars. I enjoyed it, I really did. I kind of wish we got more... how should I say this? I don't know how to say it because I do feel like the psychological portrayal of the characters was good, but I feel like because of this writing style that's very spare. It's not that I didn't... It's not necessarily that I thought the characters weren't fleshed out enough. I just felt like I didn't see enough of them. There's a lot of dialogue in this book and I feel like there wasn't like much observation. How should I say this? Like, we're definitely stuck in Mariah's head a lot. And we just, aside from dialogue, we just don't see anything else really when it comes to other characters. I don't know how to explain it. We just hear the characters speak to Mariah, but aside from the dialogue, there's nothing else really. Anything I could get to know the other characters more through. But it's like, it's a stylistic choice. It's how she writes. So yeah, I liked it. Also, if you want to read this, definitely check out the trigger warnings because yeah, there's a lot of that. Also, there are some homophobic slurs in here, just throwing out there. You know, it was the 60s. Okay, that's it. One last thing I would add, kind of when it comes to literary fiction and how hard or easy it was to read. While it wasn't as confusing as I initially thought it would be, and the language actually wasn't, you know, that inaccessible. Because at first, you know, she kind of throws you into the story and you just have no idea who the main character is, who are those people that she mentions. And while a lot is explained later, you do kind of have to read between the lines a lot. So this isn't the most straightforward story. As I said, there is some like vagueness in her writing style. So no, this isn't the easiest book I've ever read. But it also like didn't absolutely go over my head, and the chapters are very short. Some of them are just, you know, a few sentences. You know, you do have to focus, but it's not completely inaccessible. I don't know. I'm just kind of in between, like, this wasn't that hard, but also, like, it is literary fiction. You do have to really be present, you know, in the text. So, yeah, that's it. On to the next book. So this is going to be just a brief update because I am almost halfway through Conversations with Friends. I'm listening it to on audiobook, and I have to say, as a shocking turn of events, I'm actually quite enjoying it. I was listening to one review of Conversations with Friends today, and something surprised me because I've read Normal People quite a few years ago, and the reviewer mentioned that there are no quotation marks to kind of signify dialogue, and I suddenly remembered that this was a thing in Normal People, and I didn't notice that because I'm listening to the audiobook. So I feel like I would have been a bit more irritated with the book if I was reading it physically, but because I'm listening to the audiobook, I'm having a good time. So this is going to be just a brief update. I'm not going to be like analyzing the Sally Rooney Beauvoir of books. Oh, I should probably tell you what the plot is about. I don't know, overall, this book is surprising to me. Like, it's not... Whenever I heard the synopsis, I had something completely different in my head, and I don't know, this book took me by surprise. So this book focuses on the main character Frances, who with her friend and ex-girlfriend Bobby performs spoken... what is it called? Spoken poetry? Spoken verse? Spoken something? You know, on stage. And one day they catch the attention of Melissa, who is a photographer. She's in her 30s and she has a husband who is an actor. And they, you know, become friends, become involved with each other. Frances does have an affair with the husband. Nick, is it Nick? I feel like this is all still in the synopsis. So yeah, this is where we're at, and I just wanted to cut this moment in time when I'm enjoying this book because I feel like, you know, we could go anywhere and I might really hate the ending, so just wanted to catch this moment on camera of me being like, hey, maybe I'm not a Sally Rooney hater. So today is Sunday and it is like a long weekend. So tomorrow we have a national holiday and there's also a national holiday on Wednesday, and I took Tuesday off. So, you know, 5 days off of work. Love that for me. And today I'm going to go to a coffee shop. I feel like I'm going to a coffee shop every single day, but I find it hard to read, especially physical books at my house because there are too many distractions, okay? So, but I found out this coffee shop, it's like a chain coffee shop, they have this like event thing every year around April where you can bring a book, and you know, a book you would like to unhaul, like you don't need it anymore, you give it to them and you get a free coffee, because like their interior is like based around books. They have a lot of bookshelves, so each year I guess they just do this event to like refresh their bookshelves. So today hopefully I will not have to pay for my coffee, and I think I will finish Conversations with Friends today or tomorrow, so more thoughts on that later. Hi. So I finished Conversations with Friends and I was going to be normal about this review. I was not going to overthink this. But then the clown in me took over and this kind of happened. So here's the thing. In an hour and a half I have a train to catch because I'm going away for a weekend and I am not packed and I really need to film this. So if I seem a bit like manic, that's why. So without further ado, first things first, I'm going to tell you my rating at the end, and I am a bit bummed that I didn't read this book physically because I don't have any quotes to share with you. Like, you just gotta believe what I'm saying, okay? Honestly, this is mostly for me rather than for you because I had like 10 different thoughts going in 10 different directions, but I felt like they were connecting one way or another, so I thought a mind map might help. Oh, one last thing before we get into it. I wrote the Sally Rooney oeuvre, but we're just pretending that Beautiful World, Where Are You does not exist, because I haven't read it. Let's go. Sally Rooney tends to be described as the millennial author. I think she was described in the New York Times as the first millennial author, and I understand that sentiment. I don't know, I feel like it's a bit... like, it's a big statement, but also it feels like it's kind of undermining or... I'm not sure, but I understand where they're coming from, because she does capture kind of the experience of being young in a certain time well. So Conversations with Friends I think is set around 2008, and Normal People, I think it's set from like 2008 to 2015 maybe. So she does capture, you know, being young and, you know, going to high school, going to college, and, you know, navigating friendships and relationships with people well. Especially parties. I don't know what it is, but the way she describes parties really does ring true to me. But that being said, she still kind of depicts quite a privileged, kind of white, well-educated, leftist kind of people. So it's a specific demographic, and, you know, other people in that demographic I think are going to, you know, relate to her characters one way or another. And we'll get to that later, but she does, you know, explore the topic of status in her novels. Characters. I do find Sally Rooney novels to be quite character-driven. So she can create very kind of realistic and believable characters, even if they're quite unlikable. And I think you will probably like, you know, either Normal People or Conversations with Friends. Yeah, like you're going to like one or another more depending on which characters you like more or maybe relate to more. And in both of those novels, she does kind of rely on... I find it hard to talk about. So miscommunication is a theme in both of those novels. And to me, the difference was that I could understand Frances, so the main character of Conversations with Friends, more, and I could actually understand why she couldn't express kind of her thoughts and feelings out loud. And it boils down to two things, I think. One, the main characters were in very different situations. So when it comes to Frances, she was, you know, having an affair with a man who was much older than her. She was 21, he was 36, I believe. You know, it was all consensual, but you know, there are still some like weird power dynamics there, I think. And because she was in this kind of situation, kind of compared to Marianne, who kind of found it hard to express her thoughts and feelings to Connell, like, I just couldn't understand it. I was just like, please just talk to each other, because like, they are the same age. Like, I couldn't really understand why she wasn't saying her thoughts out loud. But with Frances, I could kind of understand it because, you know, there was this age difference. It was an affair, so like, yeah, I could just understand why she couldn't say some things out loud. And another thing is the perspectives. So in Conversations with Friends, we have only one perspective, so the one perspective is from Frances. While in Normal People, we have both Marianne's perspective and Connell's, so the boy that she's kind of involved with. And because in Conversations with Friends there was only one perspective, I could kind of understand why Frances would misunderstand some things, while in Normal People it was just frustrating because I could read from both the perspective of Marianne and Connell, so I knew exactly what they were misunderstanding about each other. And I was just like screaming, no girl, he doesn't think that way, like you're misunderstanding it, and it was just infuriating. So overall, Frances and Marianne are quite similar. There is this quote from The Guardian, written by Claire Kilroy. Rooney writes so well of the condition of being a young, gifted, but self-destructive woman, both the mentality and physicality of it. And I did feel like Frances and Marianne were similar in many ways. Both kind of have had similar mental problems, and there's like pretty much almost exactly the same sex scene. Also, there's one thing about like being thin and like not eating, trigger warning, and I don't know, it was never really resolved, and I think it was supposed to show, you know, the kind of mental issues that the main characters were going through. And I found this one comment on Reddit, and I realized, okay, I'm not the only one that was like, it's kind of weird how often it's mentioned. The person said, girl skipping meals is not a personality trait. I feel like all of her characters do that. So yeah, that was a bit weird, but here's the thing. Yes, the main characters are similar. Yes, both novels explore similar themes and, you know, depicts, you know, college students navigating their life, love life, you know, like I said in the beginning, friendships, stuff like that, first, you know, work experiences, etc. But I actually found out that Sally Rooney said it herself, that Conversations with Friends was actually kind of a trick. But I found out through one interview with her that she herself kind of considered Conversations with Friends to be kind of a trial novel for her, for trial novel for her. Okay, I will link all of the articles in the description, by the way. So, I thought of Conversations as my trial novel, so it gave me a huge amount of permission to write the same thing over again. So why are those two novels so polarizing? Why there is this sentiment that if you liked one of them, you're probably going to dislike the other? So while they do have kind of similar characters and plots, I think what's different is that Conversations with Friends to me feels a bit lighter in tone, and to me it felt like it wasn't taking itself too seriously, while Normal People felt a little bit more serious, and because it felt more serious, it actually felt more pretentious. Also the misunderstanding of it all, like, because we get two perspectives, it can get very like infuriating. And yeah, in both novels we explore kind of a topic, or the kind of plot of like working class people entering the kind of sphere of the elite. So let's talk about it. The Marxism of it all. So, where do I even start with that? So, first things first, I have to say, when I was hearing people talking about how Sally Rooney is a Marxist and how like prevalent those kind of themes are in her novels, I was a bit confused because I didn't really feel that way after reading Normal People. Like, yes, she does explore status, but I don't know, like the way people talked about it, I was a bit confused. And then I read Conversations with Friends and I was like, oh, okay, I see where you're coming from. So in Conversations with Friends, those kind of themes are a bit more straightforward. Like the main character is a communist. I think she calls herself a communist and people around her do. She does, you know, speak about those kind of, having those kind of views out loud. While in Normal People, you could say those themes are a bit more subtle or a bit underdeveloped. I'm leaning towards the latter. Also, I've heard some comments online saying that Sally Rooney is a kind of champagne socialist, which means a person who has socialist ideals while enjoying a wealthy and luxurious lifestyle. And like, I don't know about Sally Rooney herself, but like, let's focus on the characters, because yes, they are all privileged to a certain degree, you know, they're white, well-educated. Even like Frances, the main characters of Conversations with Friends, she considers herself to be, you know, I guess from a working class, to be a bit more poor, but she still has like certain privileges. You know, she goes to college and she lives in this apartment that I think is her uncle's, so I'm not sure if she's paying rent or whatever, but like also her dad does support her financially up to a certain point. I don't really want to spoil anything, so I don't know. The question is whether those Marxist ideas kind of stand if she is depicting those like glamorous lifestyles. Like you have in both Normal People and Conversations with Friends scenes when characters go to like, I don't know, France or Italy or somewhere to like summer homes and drink wine, you know, like, yeah, those kind of things. And I think the question is whether she is just depicting them or like criticizing them, if that makes sense. Like, I think what she does in Conversations with Friends, at least, like she shows the glamour and shows those kind of less privileged, let's say, working class people entering those kind of glamorous lifestyles. But what we really see in the book is how she shows that like everyone's kind of miserable. So at first we see those kind of rich characters, their glamorous lifestyle, and everything seems beautiful, but they, you know, all have their problems, and like it's not really that beautiful on the inside. I saw this article that like was talking about Marx's theory of commodity fetishism. So, commodity fetishism talks about economic relationships of production and exchange as being social relationships that exist among things, and not as relationships that exist among people. So what the fuck does that mean? From what I understand and what I've kind of read, in very simple terms, is kind of how some things are not just things and how we don't see them as, they're not viewed in terms of like use value, but we see them in terms of like exchange value. So basically those kind of like objects that signify social status. So yeah, the commodity fetishism, so fetishizing objects. So basically what the author of this article says is that she basically first like romanticizes those lives, those objects, and then defetishizes them. So here's a quote: "By naming, glamorizing, and then deromanticizing objects of social value, be they mansions, champagne flutes, or acolytes, Rooney explicitly counters her character's persistent fetishizing of status objects and reveals the extent to which relationships are shaped by dynamics of social power." So, do I agree with that? To a certain degree, I do agree that she does that in Conversations with Friends. I'm not sure if she does it as well in Normal People. And also there is this question of, can a love story be Marxist? And Sally Rooney actually does talk about it in one interview. I'll also link it down below. I think it's always difficult to make the language of theory, and whether that's Marxist theory or it's philosophy, or you know, any language that we use to try and explain human experience on an analytical or conceptual level, it's always so hard to make that idea make sense in your everyday, very mundane life, or in your intimate personal relationships. How do you apply that theory? How do you bring that down to that level, or bring it up to that level? For me, that's something very interesting. It's something that I'm interested in following, like a thread from my work. It's like, how do I take the ideas and beliefs and principles and make sense of them, not in a broad social or political way, but in a very miniature way of people's intimate lives and of love stories. How can a love story be Marxist? Well, I don't know the answer to the question, and maybe it doesn't have an answer, but I'm interested in asking. So I did find it very interesting and relatable. Like here how she's talking about how do I apply those kind of theoretical views to my everyday life. Like, sure, I want to be like, no, fuck capitalism. I want to, you know, live on a farm and read books every day. But can I really do that? No, I have to go to my little corporate job and, you know, work 8 hours, you know, because I need money to live. How do I not live by the rules of capitalism when living in capitalism, you know? So that's very interesting, and I do think that this kind of like goes back to the millennial experience of like having those kind of views, but find it hard to apply them in real life. But I feel like it's different to the champagne socialist that like has those views but doesn't like actually live by them, because like they're rich, they're enjoying their like privileged, wealthy lifestyle, while I'm like, well, I hate my job, an example, but you know, I need money, so let's get this bread, you know? So yeah, I think that's most of it. Oh, the endings. One last thing, the endings. I guess this is the part that's going to be spoilery. When it comes to normal people, I kind of hate the whole book, but actually quite like the ending because I found it realistic. While when it comes to conversations with friends, I was really enjoying it throughout, but then the ending happened and I was like, why? But they're both realistic, and I can give Sally Rooney that, and I can appreciate that. So when it comes to conversations with friends, my first kind of reaction was, okay, I hate this. But my second reaction was, okay, this is actually quite realistic, and you know, people are messy and that's life. So overall, I'm giving Conversations with Friends 4 stars because of the ending, and because I felt like some of those ideas, especially when it comes to like Marxism and like the fetish, like, were not explored enough, or like didn't go, I don't say it didn't go anywhere, but yeah, just weren't explored enough. Yeah, especially when it comes to mental health, like I really thought we would like address it at some point. No. So yeah, I really enjoyed it. I didn't love it. I don't think it's a perfect book, but I see the appeal, and I can finally say I get it. I get the hype. I understand why Sally Rooney is so popular and why it appeals to certain audiences. And I feel like I finally kind of understand why some people love normal people but hate Conversations with Friends, and the other way. So that's all. Oh my god, I have so little time. Okay, let's catch the train. The Woman Destroyed by Simone de Beauvoir. Simone de Beauvoir is a famous author. She's known for her feminist theory, and she was one of the main people in the existentialist movement in Paris. So if you're reading this, people will be like, that is the most intellectual person who also believes that life is pointless. So, I finished The Woman Destroyed, and So I was going to update you probably like halfway through this collection for short stories or something like that. But I kept waiting for a moment where I would like understand what like works for me and what doesn't in this collection. And that moment never came, so here we are, I finished it. And it doesn't make sense. The fact that I didn't really like this book, because it has so many things that I should like in theory, but I didn't. So I don't know how to do this review. Okay, so since it's a collection of short stories, I'm just going to tell you that this collection has 3 short stories. The last one is quite long, it honestly feels like a novella. And they all focus on a woman in some kind of crisis. So, the woman destroyed. And I don't know what it is. Was it the writing style? Maybe? Because this collection explores such topics like aging, motherhood, feminism potentially, but I don't know. I didn't really see it. Like, maybe I'm dumb, because like that doesn't make sense, because Simone de Beauvoir was like a leading kind of feminist of the 20th century. I don't know. Maybe, you know what? I have to say, I do feel like I would benefit from reading this book in like an academic setting and talking about it in class, because there is a chance I just don't get it. Another thing is that I found that none of the characters were self-aware, like at all, which I think was a conscious choice of the author to go through kind of the characters realizing some things about their life, and like we go through that experience with them. So I understand this was a choice, but to me it made the reading experience quite frustrating. And I found it quite slow-paced and repetitive, to be honest. I'm trying so hard not to say this was just boring, but it was. Another thing, I did find it quite sentimental, you know. So all of the 3 main characters are older women. They're not old, I don't know. They're in their like 40s, 50s, 60s. So they're all kind of looking back on their life. And personally, I just found it, maybe except for the first short story, but I found it quite sentimental, and the insights, they weren't like anything special, like nothing that I haven't read before. So yeah, but the first short story, which is the title short story, The Woman Destroyed, was the best one. So basically my ratings would be, so for the first short story, The Age of Discretion, I would give it 2 stars. The monologue was kind of hard to get through because it's a stream of consciousness, but I ended up quite enjoying it in the end, but it's like a 3 star. And The Woman Destroyed, which is the longest short story, would be a 4 star. I did find the kind of psychological portrayal to be very interesting and very good. And the most interesting thing when it comes to the first short story, so it's about this woman who's in her 40s. Her husband, as she finds out, is cheating on her, and we just go on this journey with the main character where she is kind of stripped of so many things. So like her children recently like moved out of her house, and now her husband is telling her that he's cheating on her, and she doesn't have a job. So she's like stripped suddenly of all of those like identities, like being a mother, being a wife. So what I found the most interesting was the main character trying to figure out who she was as a person, and I don't know how to explain it, but like she's really deeply like analyzing how other people see her and what kind of person other people think she is, and she's confronting those ideas of like what she thinks of herself and what other people think of herself. And that's something I struggle with quite often, of like I have those ideas of like who I think I am as a person, and I always wonder if other people like see me for who I think I am, or they see me a bit differently. Yeah, so that was interesting. The last short story was pretty good. I would say it is worth a read, but good god, it is like over 100 pages long, and it is quite repetitive. It is, I was struggling to get through this collection of short stories overall. I did find it a bit disengaging, unengaging, whatever the word is, but overall I think I would give it 3 stars, so there's that. I'm gonna wrap up this video and talk about the 3 books that I've read, and yeah, do some final thoughts, because I do have a few of them. So, Anya from the future, take it away. And we're back. This video kind of, well, I don't want to say went downhill, but the ratings for the books kind of went downhill. So we started off strong, but yeah, in the end, you know, I can't love every single book. So there's that, but this kind of felt like an intellectual journey. Like we went from nihilism through Marxism and we ended up exploring French existentialism. So this was interesting. I'm sorry that this kind of turned into a Sally Rooney reading vlog, as in like most of the vlog footage is about Sally Rooney, but I don't know, I felt like I didn't want the Sally Rooney girlies to come for me, even though I liked the book, but I wanted to explain myself well. Hope it was enjoyable at least. So quickly, we started with Played as Lace, which was a 4.5 star, and I feel like I didn't express my enjoyment of this book very well because I kind of reviewed it right after I finished it, and because the topics are really hard, the book is very bleak, the tone is very like dark, yeah, nihilistic. It was hard to be like very like upbeat in the review. So I just want to emphasize, I really enjoyed this book. 4.5 star is a really good rating for me, and I'm actually really looking forward to reading more books from Joan Didion. I think I'm going to buy Slouching Towards Bethlehem, which is, I think, a collection of essays from this author. So I can finally say I am a Joan Didion girly. And yeah, this was actually not as hard to get through as I thought it would be. The beginning was a bit of a challenge, but yeah, this is quite accessible. Yeah, then I read Conversations with Friends, 4 stars. Obviously this was a big surprise for me. I'm not going to spend much time talking about this book here because I've said enough words about this book and Sally Rooney in this video. And lastly we have The Woman Destroyed, which I gave 3 stars to, and it was a surprise of a different kind because I actually was pretty sure that I was going to love it. Probably before filming this video I thought this would be like a favorite, but it wasn't, and that's fine. So what we learned in this video. First of all, I would like to point out that all of these books focus on like quite privileged white women, and this like sad girl genre definitely evolved in the past few years. So at this point in time I feel like you can find a lot of other books that are similar in tone but are a lot more diverse, and definitely a lot of them are on my reading list. And did we learn anything else? My final thought is, do literary fiction books written by women have to focus on the woman just going through it, like having the worst time ever? Like for those books to be categorized as literary fiction? I don't know, maybe. Because yeah, I just need to read something like easy and like uplifting because this was quite depressing. But I did enjoy this challenge, and yeah, I hope you enjoyed watching it. Ooh, this is not very good. Okay, so let's wrap this up. Hope you enjoyed this video. Please like, subscribe. It took me quite a long time to film it and edit it, so I would appreciate it if you like left a comment or like liked the video. So yeah, I'll see you in the next video. Bye!